Greetings and welcome to Political Empire. I'm your host, Kim Pearsall with the Press Enterprise and PE.com, and we're keeping you updated on everything election-oriented before the election occurs, which is very close. First, we're going to talk about campaign cash and all of that money that's flowing into a few campaigns. And then, secondly, we're going to talk about Riverside. There's been quite a lot happening lately, so our reporter who covers Riverside is going to give us a roundup on what has been going on there for the election season. So first, campaign cash. There's no slowdown in the amount of cash being thrown into campaigns, even as we get closer and closer to the actual election day. I'm going to run through a couple of them, but it's kind of interesting. 31st State Senate, Jeff Miller was given a $2,500 contribution from AstraZeneca. The Agua Caliente Band of Cahuilla Indians gave him $1,900. The Association of California Life and Health Insurance PAC gave him $1,000. And the Independent Coalition of Educators gave him $1,500. The American Chemistry Council, $1,000. And Astellas Pharma US Inc. gave him $1,500. And the California Grocers Association PAC, $2,500. The California Mortgage Association PAC, $1,000. And the Fox Entertainment Group, $1,000. And the Kelly Roberts, or the individual Kelly Roberts, $3,900. So that is Jeff Miller. Richard Roth of the Barona Band of Mission Indians is supporting him with a $3,900 donation. The Democratic State Central Committee of California, $77,000. Friends of Noreen Evans for State Senate 2014, $1,900. John Montevideo, $2,900. Michael Bedart, $2,500. Ricardo Echeverria, $2,500. And Rizzio and Nelson, $1,600. This is just a few of the donations that have been coming in for some of these candidates at the tail end of this campaign season, and I got those, and you can see even more from our At the Races section of the Political Empire blog online. So if you go to PE.com, go to the politics section, find our blog, find our everyday feature now that is called At the Races, and you'll find out who's donating to whom and how much. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the Riverside Race and what's been going on there. As we get closer to knowing who will be Riverside's next top mayor, things have gotten a little, shall we say, political in the race between Rusty Bailey and Adkison. And here to tell us the latest is our reporter, Alicia Robinson. Alicia, thanks so much for joining me today. Now, before we get into the mayor's race, I did want to touch on something that happened at the recent Riverside City Council meeting. It was an instance where an individual went up to speak during public comment. She spoke longer than the 3 minutes allotted, and then something happened. So feel free to let us know what was going on, because it was quite the incident.
Well, yeah, this was at Tuesday's council meeting. One of the frequent commenters, Karen Wright, she's a longtime resident who has shared many of her opinions about topics on pretty much anything you can think of on council agendas. Now, she took her turn last night at the podium to talk about a contract for solid waste hauling, and she ran over the time limit, which she's been known to do before. Typically, the mayor or whoever is running the meeting will just remind her gently, your time is up, you need to stop, and then usually she'll just say, hey, wait a minute, let me finish my sentence, and everything's peacefully resolved. For some reason, last night, she continued to speak, so one of the police officers who are normally stationed in the council chambers came up to kind of try to encourage her to leave the podium so they could move on to the next item. And pretty soon, it somehow ensued that as he tried to lead her away, she ended up sitting on the floor, and then there were more officers came over, they handcuffed her, and the mayor had to call a halt to the meeting for a few minutes. She was upset and yelling that she couldn't get up because while she was handcuffed, and finally they did take the cuffs off. She got up and was led out of the meeting. Some of the other frequent attendees of the council meeting were upset and were, criticizing the council while this was happening, saying it was outrageous. So it was a kind of a big scene.
Sounds like it. And the scene, you recorded part of it on your iPhone while you were at the meeting. And so that's available on your blog on the website as well. So if you go to PE.com and you look for Alicia's Riverside blog, she has an entry that kind of details about what happened at the meeting, as well as a little video footage of what the scene actually looked like. So Alicia, good thing you were there so you could see what happened, because yeah, it's quite the scene that ensued. But now back to the Riverside mayoral race. So we've got Rusty Bailey, Ed Adkison. Now recently, Rusty Bailey, who's the incumbent councilman, had sent out a very fiery mailer, a harsh mailer, accusing his opponent at Adkison of having received some $3 million in city contracts. Turns out, though, that his firm received far less, about $500,000, and the mailer has since been debunked. What's been the fallout for Bailey?
Well, we've had a few comments on our website and our Facebook page Some people said that they were surprised and a little bit disappointed that Rusty would send out a mailer like this that, you know, was so easily, I guess, disproven. What happened was the mailer said that Ed Adkison's civil engineering firm had earned about, or had been paid about $3.8 million in taxpayer dollars after Ed left the council, you know, from city contracts that they had. What it actually turned out, according to the city, the firm had really only been paid a little under $600,000. Some of the contracts were where the city hired multiple firms and had them on call, and not every firm was going to get work from every contract. So when confronted with this, Rusty didn't really acknowledge that his numbers were incorrect, and he actually later posted something to his campaign website saying he stood by the mailer. However, there was an important distinction in what he said at that time. He said, well, the firm was in line to earn this much money, which actually is technically correct. The mailer said they actually were paid that much.
Right. And as you've pointed out, and as other folks have pointed out, they didn't actually receive that money. It was up to amounts if they had followed through with those projects, if they were assigned to those projects, et cetera. So really, Atkinson's firm got about $600,000, like you were saying, even though the mailer said he had earned about $3 million. Now, Bailey has also run into an ethics complaint. Someone has claimed that he may have been using time in his classroom to campaign. If I'm correct on this, what's going on there? Tell us a little bit about this complaint.
Well, now, besides being on the council, Rusty works as a teacher at Poly High School. He teaches government. And one of the city council critics who has made a lot of accusations about and not disliked a lot of things that the city has done apparently heard from a relative of hers who was in Rusty's class that Rusty had played videotapes of a council meeting during class, and according to the complainant, Rusty had made some insulting remarks about some of the speakers at the council meeting, and so she filed a complaint. It's Vivian Moreno, who also is actually suing the city on a totally unrelated issue. She filed an ethics complaint alleging that Rusty had insulted speakers at the council meeting and women specifically, and also that she believed he was using his position as a teacher to help further his candidacy as mayor. So Rusty, of course, denied making any disparaging remarks about anyone, and he believes the complaint is politically motivated by supporters of his opponent. Now, Vivian did say she is supporting Ed Adkison, but that has nothing to do with the filing of the complaint, and Ed Adkison said he and his campaign were not involved in the filing of the complaint in any way. Now, that complaint, there will be a public hearing on it, but that won't happen until after the election. That's scheduled for November 16th.
Interesting. Well, like I mentioned at the start of the show, a lot has been going on in Riverside. Alicia, thanks so much for the update today. And thank you for watching another episode of Political Empire. We'll see you on Monday.